James. James, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
You know what? We are another weekend closer to college football, and I cannot wait.
It's soon. I mean, the Canadian football's starting to get old already. I need more.
I tried to watch some IFL today on YouTube, and it didn't feel as good as I
Wow.
wanted it to.
The Omaha Beef not fill you up.
No, I can't say the indoor football league did anything for me today.
They that is such a sad thing because like I love the way the AFL was set up and then it just completely shattered.
Do you know the one thing I noticed from the IFL? Do you know how we go back and watch VHS tapes now and just the picture quality difference of
Yes.
4K and the VHS?
Oh, you have no idea. Yes, I
It's
watched it.
hard on the eyes to watch the IFL. It's so pixely, almost maybe the right word.
How is it that the fan run football league has better camera quality than the IFL?
Johnny Manziel. I'm not sure if I know the answer to that. I'm really not.
The guy, I will respect the guy who freaking smoked a bowl and gave it to I forgot who it was during one of the games.
Look, we don't use off season over here, so we are now going to rename our previews talking season.
All
So
right,
shout out Steve Spurrier. If you know, you know. Today's talking season's on the ACC. We're in everybody's favorite time with the preview magazines. We have Lindy's that we've been looking at. Just what are your impressions? I know we talked about that just a minute ago. You know, just territorially, the difference in the covers of magazines.
less than 100 miles away.
Than yours. But, you know, Lindy's has 4 teams ranked from the ACC in the preseason. You have number 4 Clemson, number 14 Miami, number 15 NC State, and number 18 Wake Forest. Any thoughts? One of those teams shouldn't be ranked? Is there a team that's not ranked that you think should be ranked?
I think Wake Forest should be ranked a little bit higher. I love that they decided to play arena football with a 100-yard field. I've always been a big Dave Clawson fan. I know I shouldn't be a Dave Clawson fan for what happened with Tennessee in 2008, but I don't blame that on him. So I actually am a really big fan of Dave Clawson. I've always loved his funky offense, and I think they're a good team. Now, will they learn how to play any defense is up to the season, but yeah, it will be determined. I also am not the biggest on NC State. I know they got their quarterback returning, but I'm sneak preview. I'm not the biggest NC State fan.
We will butt heads on this all year then, because that is a team that I'm looking to watch hard this year. I know they lost their left tackle that was drafted in the first round. You can't blame the guy for going to the NFL, but if he was coming back, you know, that team would be just scarier than what it is.
Completely different situation.
But let's get into it. We have 4 coaches, 4 teams with new coaches this year. You had Mike Elko go to Duke from A&M as their defensive coordinator. Obviously, everybody knows Mark Cristobal went to Miami. You have Tony Elliott, who was Clemson's offensive coordinator last year, and go to Virginia. And then Brett Pry, who was Penn State's defensive coordinator, go to Virginia Tech. Outside of Cristobal, who do you expect to have the best year?
Brett Pry.
Okay, and elaborate because
not only was he a Bud Foster guy, so he has ties to Virginia Tech to begin with. I actually think he's one of the better coaches out there. That's going to be and he's in the better situation. Virginia Tech has talent. For some reason, Fuente just could not get it done there.
I think that surprised me because of what he was able to do with half the resources at Memphis.
Yes. Well, it's showing that maybe Memphis is a better situation.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, the other guy from Memphis is also having a difficult situation down in Tallahassee. So, we
know they can play football at Florida State.
Yes, and they got way more talent, but yet somehow they're still. But for me, they're bringing back somebody that is tied to the school and everything. I think Elko just has such a uphill climb. I think he's a better coach, but I feel like he's got a higher thing. I am really scared of Tony Elliott, not for really good ways. He was flirting with a Tennessee job and then decided it was too hard, and goes back to Clemson and has an absolutely horrific year on offense. So I feel like he's not the wonder kid because, you know, he had Travis Etienne and sunshine. Yeah, Lawrence.
Sunshine. You know.
Yeah, I love that movie too.
Um,
But that's the reason why I feel like they had more talent. So he had there was kind of the Nick Saban effect. His offensive coordinator, Dabo Swinney's offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators looked better because he had all that talent there rather than their schemes.
You maybe kind of want to backtrack, but I'm going to stick to it because I did pick Tony Elliott. And more of this, I think, is on Brennan Armstrong, who's the quarterback of Virginia, than Tony Elliott itself, because we've seen when he had, Clemson had Trevor Lawrence is there, with the arm, they were able to utilize him. But I like your point because if you get out of South Florida and you look at, what is his name? Jeff Scott.
Yeah.
Who was the previous offensive coordinator before Tony Elliott. And South Florida's a rich state, and we know USF isn't, loaded. But we look, he is kind of struggling. But I'm going to stick to my gun. I am going to say it's Tony Elliott because I do have faith in Brendan Armstrong. So I'm just going to kind of roll with it on that one. And if
I'll give you one warning for all of Clemson assistant coaches that become head coaches, and that is the man, the myth, the legend at Arkansas.
Sam Pittman.
But no. Before him, Chad Morris.
Yeah, he got up down at SMU though.
He's doing better there, but I mean, he came from Clemson, looked like a wonder kid, and then went to Arkansas. And it was terrible.
But then he had a stint at Auburn as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're gonna shift to the other coach that we mentioned there that we kind of saved for his own special topic, Mario Cristobal. I think everybody's high on Mario Cristobal. We all know he can recruit. He did that at Oregon. He's worked under Nick Saban. What are your expectations for Miami? Do you feel like they can officially say that U is going to be back because they brought one of their guys back?
It's less that. I think Mario Cristobal is a great coach.
Right.
What he did at Oregon was very well done. I also think the team he has coming back, because I mean, not only does he have Van Dyke, but he has most of his starting line back. He has one of his starting receivers back, and he has Jalen Knighton coming back, and he also has Will Mallory coming back on offense, and that's not even including the guys he's coming back on defense. And it's the state of Miami that I like to call it from Bo Schembechler.
Oh no, you're absolutely Miami's its own entity down there.
Miami's its own entity, and just that. Them going back to the roots and going, okay, we're going to bring the guy that injured the Rock. If you watched Young Rock, it was Mario Cristobal that did it. And they're bringing back Miami, and that's the one thing I think they were missing. I think when Mark Richt came there, he kind of got the identity back with the chain and everything, and then bringing back the swagger.
Right.
And I think this is the next step forward. And I think their offense is going to be so good. He only has to do so much on defense. They just have to be okay. And I feel like Mario Cristobal being a defensive coach, they're going to be okay on defense.
Well, there's a couple of things that I want to point out about Mario Cristobal. If you look, we know two things about Mario Cristobal. He's going to recruit, and he's going to be able to block and run the ball. But I like, and I don't have it in front of me. It's on my laptop. I sent it over to you. His coaching staff. He brought Josh Gaddis from Michigan.
Yes.
And he also had Kevin Steele, who worked on the defensive staff at Auburn when they won the national championship.
I wasn't even going to bring him up. And also they have Charlie Strong there. They have a bunch of high-level coaches that I love Kevin Steele. I know he had a cup of coffee here at Tennessee after Auburn's the debacle there. He's a really solid defensive coach. He might not be the best recruiter, but they don't need him to be. They need him to coach.
That's what you got Mario Cristobal to do.
That's why you got Mario Cristobal. That's why you got Charlie Strong. That's why you got all those freaking top flight recruiters.
So, I have a friend of mine who's an Auburn alum, and he was high on Kevin Steele. He loved Kevin Steele. But to me, as we were putting these coaching staffs together, did you know Charlie Strong was down there?
Not until I started reading the magazines.
I want to see Charlie Strong reveal his image. And I know this is a different story for a different day, but when I found out he was, I was like, oh, that could be a good story. Let him build up his credentials there in Miami, then go. He had success in the American. Now we don't know what's going to happen there, but go to an FIU or an FAU. That's where Willie Taggart is right now, is at FAU, and kind of work your way back up the ranks. So
I think also FAU is a really good jump off point because that's where Lane Kiffin rehabilitated himself.
Your boy Lane Kiffin was there.
Yes, 3.
Your boy Lane Kiffin was there. But what are your realistic? And we'll kind of get into more of this and some predictions later. Realistically, on the field, what do you expect from Miami?
To compete for the ACC championship.
Okay, we'll leave that there.
To win their division. I feel like their talent and their schedule actually works out very well for them because, they play Texas A&M. That's a bad out-of-conference game, but they get North Carolina at home. They get Duke at home. They get Virginia. They have to go to Virginia, but who's going to know how good Virginia is going to be at that time? They get Florida State at home, and the only bad game they got in conference is at Clemson.
They don't have NC State, do they?
They do not have NC State.
Okay. Well, we'll save the rest of that. No, they don't.
Okay.
We'll save the rest of that for predictions later. I went through and I named I sent them over to you. I sent about 5 different jobs that could potentially be open. You have Florida State, Louisville, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, and possibly North Carolina if Mac Brown decides to retire. If I said James Lilquist on July 10th, 2022, you put your money on one job that's going to be open next offseason, which job are you putting it on?
Well, easy money, and which means you don't make any money, would be on
Scared money don't make no money, James.
Huh?
Scared money don't make money, James.
Exactly. So, if I'm going to put my chips on the table, I'm going Mike Norvell. Not because I don't think he'll have a bad season. I think he'll have a okay season. He might go 6-6, but is 6-6 okay for Florida State with everything else hanging over the head of this conference that we're not going to talk about yet? And Deion Sanders is winning games at Jackson State.
That was going to be my point is, could we see next offseason, hey, Mike Norvell, we'll keep you unless Deion Sanders wants to be the head coach, which is kind of what Miami went through this year. Well, Manny Diaz, we'll keep you. But if Mario Cristobal says yes, we're going to let you go.
No. I think they're going to let him go. They're going to ask him.
So, do you think unless Deion Sanders says yes, I want to be the head coach, but if Mike Norvell wins 6 or 7 games, that he'll still be the coach?
I don't think that's a question. I think Florida State just goes, hey, they literally come there because they're seeing that they're in a tight spot. Excuse me. You've got Miami recruiting right now. They are recruiting.
I think Florida today they have like a top 10, borderline top 10 class.
They have a top 10 class right now with Francis Malolonga. Offensive tackle.
Let's see, I'm pulling it up right now.
Because someone else is top 5 now. New team is top 5. Dude, yeah. Then we just got another 4-star. Anyway, but their recruiting's going to get better and bigger and better. Florida, will they figure it out? Because right now they're on borrowed time right now. Because once UCF comes to the big boy table, that's going to get real difficult for Gainesville. And will Gainesville be okay with that? Or will that finally be
boys are in the top 5, James?
I said it.
Miami has the 10th ranked class right now. We're talking about recruiting in the state of Florida. Florida is ranked 20th. Florida State's ranked 43rd.
And this is where the warning bells in Tallahassee are going to go off.
Class, and we still have August, September, October, November, December. Like we still have 7 months.
But there's some red flags going on right now. And you know what fixes those ills is that's bringing back Coach Prime and bringing that all-star staff he has down there in Jackson.
Man, I am going to play scared money because I know it's going to happen. You went all in, and I'm a Georgia fan, and we know that. And this, I think, would be like you saying, "Hey, I want Vanderbilt to be good." I enjoy seeing Georgia Tech play well.
You're rare because I do not care if Vanderbilt sucks.
That's what I'm saying. But this would be like you saying, "I want Vanderbilt to play well." Of course, SEC, ACC is not the same thing, but I like to see Georgia Tech relevant. So I do think that Geoff Collins, if they don't win 5 or 6 games this year, is gonna be out.
I can see that because
for the city of it, to be in downtown Atlanta. There is no reason for y'all to be playing as poorly as y'all are. They haven't ran the option in many years, so they're now up to speed on offense, and right now they have the 52nd ranked class.
Yeah,
so I feel like just to be in the city of Atlanta and to be 3-9. I was watching part of the Georgia Tech North Carolina game from last year earlier. Georgia Tech won that game and was like 3-1, and they finished 3-9 or 4-8, something like that. So they took a hard fall last year, and I just don't see Jeff Collins making it one more year.
And here's the thing: they had a great running back at that.
That was going to be my next point. I'm glad you brought that up.
And they lost him.
He transferred to Alabama,
and he's going to be the starting running back at the University of Alabama.
It's not like they didn't have weapons.
No, they had talent.
So
something's going, and it might be the fool's gold of being a Temple coach. There's just some trends in life that. Maybe being a coach at Temple is not a good thing.
Doesn't bode well for you, huh?
Nope.
All right. James, will DJ Uiagalelei make it through the 2022 season as Clemson's starting quarterback?
I heard this. I know where you got this question from. Thank you, Unnecessary Roughness.
No, actually, that's not where I heard it from. But
no. It was a question from Unnecessary Roughness to Mr. Pate.
Did I do that?
Katie from Barstool.
Yeah. There you go. I'm glad. But I had other points to this as well, so continue.
Here's what I feel like for DJ, and I feel like he got a bad rap last year because that offensive line was awful. So I feel like he got gun shy in there. So I do want to see him week 1 before I make my decision. However, looking at what happened last year, if he plays like that again at any time, they will be having another quarterback start for them. Not because he's injured, but because they have another 5-star quarterback there, just ready to rock.
And we've seen this before. Remember who was there? Well, they did that with Taj Boyd.
Yep.
And then Deshaun Watson came in. Who was the guy that was it? Taj Boyd was one that transferred to Missouri. They had what's his name in there, and then Trevor Lawrence started, and Trevor Lawrence never lost that starting job.
Mm-hmm.
My other thought on DJ is if DJ at any point loses the starting quarterback, he's from California. Do we see him transfer out back west?
He might, however. Will he transfer to UCLA? Because I don't think he can transfer to USC.
I didn't say specifically which school. I just will he.
Well, I'm gonna be real. Net recognizes real here. The other Pac-12 schools are a little unfamiliar at the moment.
Right.
And it's only about when you say you're going west, you're going to California, you're going to either UCLA or USC. Okay. So you could see that. I actually could see him transferring to some place, maybe like LSU. Next year,
they still have Max Johnson. I think he'll still be on that roster.
Yeah, but it's the transfer portal. That
one of those quarterbacks is going to be gone because they got Max Johnson, they got Jaden Daniels, and one other quarterback transferred in there. And I can't think of who it is. They won't all three still be there at the end of the year.
Yeah, they won't be. So he might. Brian Kelly might be going after somebody. We don't know. I just don't see if he plays bad. I don't see him staying at Clemson, and they're gonna will Cole Kulibrich, because I will completely jack up that name, even though I know about Kulibrichs, from his father. Will he be the guy? Because you're trusting a 5-star freshman. I understand these kids are not human, but come on. Even I don't have this for a 5-star freshman coming in next year for Tennessee. I don't have that much faith in him starting year 1. So I just don't.
And we've watched college ball for a long time. The progression of these starting quarterbacks,
I understand that, but still.
Compared to, I think you're going to see a 4-game stretch, and we kind of are going to touch on this later right here to figure out who DJ really is. At Wake, NC State, at Boston College, at Florida State. I think that 4-game stretch right there is going to determine not only Clemson's season, but who's going to be the starting quarterback at the end of 2022 into 2023? Because if I'm right now as an NFL team, I'm not touching DJ with a 10-foot pole.
No, you're not unless you're the Cleveland Browns.
Well, that's a different story for a different day. That your boys are running up there, and you better be glad they're not running it down here.
You're damn right I am.
But continue, we may touch on that in our SEC.
Yes.
On why you want the Haslams to stay as far fucking away as they can.
Yes. Anyway, we'll get back to that because I got a whole rant on that one. If DJ does not play well after September 24th or October 1st, you will see Cade. Excuse me, I keep on saying Cole because that's his father. You'll see Cade October 8th.
My question is, what is considered? And you talked about their offensive line. What is considered playing well with a down offensive line?
If we're watching that, even if we're watching that first game against Georgia Tech, and Clemson is just struggling because they struggled last year, like you said, on the offensive line to block anybody. Well, and that's where I get with maybe they'll mercy kill him there if that happens. But I think that the offensive line will be improved, so that's why he doesn't have an excuse anymore. So this is going to turn into the Jarrett Garantano type thing. Will he be good enough, and will he show it because he doesn't have that many excuses anymore? And there's an option.
He didn't have an excuse last year. They just didn't have another quarterback to play with him.
True, but I also think that he was running for his life, but that's another story. Again, I think Georgia ruined it.
They didn't have a better option last year. He would have played. He would have been the one to play all year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The way college ball is now, you're not gun shy about pulling that quarterback.
Yes, I'm very well aware of this.
I don't know. I just think that we're going to see, and then you got Syracuse at home, but then you go at Notre Dame the week after that. So you got 5 of these 6 games in the middle of that schedule that's going to determine. One, I think if DJ stays or goes, but 2, who's going to be your quarterback into the 2023 season. I mean, if we look, he threw for 10 interceptions, 9 touchdowns, and 22.5 yards. So you're telling me that if they had a better option, that's who you're choosing. That was my point, is they played him almost because they had to last year.
No, I mean, he had more interceptions than touchdowns, and that's not good.
Anytime you have a negative TD to INT, and you had Will Shipley, so it's not like you couldn't run the ball.
And you still have Will Shipley.
And he's a sophomore this year.
Yep. I mean, in his defense, I mean, he was running for his life. Because I mean, look at the attempts and everything and his yards. I mean, obviously they count sacks as rushing yards too. So I mean, he still had positive rushing yards even with all that. I mean, he had 105 attempts. How many of that was running for his life?
Sorry, James, you cut out that whole time. Say that.
Sorry. So he had 105 rush attempts last year. How many of those were him running for his life?
I'm with you. The Clemson offense never looked like they were in sync last year. If we look, the most points they put up last year, 30. You got 30 on. You got 30 on South Carolina, 49 on South Carolina State. We watched them put up 49 on South Carolina State and a half with Deshaun Watson in trouble.
Oh, they put 48 on Wake Forest.
Did I miss that somewhere?
Yep, you did. They put 44 on UConn, 48 on Wake.
Okay, well, outside of the Wake Forest game, I'll give them. But we know Wake Forest doesn't play defense. But they put up 49 against South Carolina State, and we've seen them put 49 on a half on South Carolina State with a quarterback.
As they should, yes.
So,
No, I get it. Their offense was anemic last year. And
absolutely.
It was pathetic. And was that the defense? Was that Tony Elliott? Was that the offensive line? What was the answer? And you better hope that since Clemson's paying all that money to Dabo Swinney, he better got it right. He better have fixed it.
You want to listen? Let's see. They were 82nd at 26 points a game, 58th with 168 yards, 192.1 passing yards a game, 103rd, and 359 yards is 100th in the nation.
Yeah.
So, but their defense, 2nd, 7th, 34th, and 8th. They had a +3 turnover margin.
Yeah, that's what kept them in games.
So, I definitely
that's what kept them 10-3 last year. Was the defense. And lucky for them, the defensive line is back. They have a linebacker back and they have a safety back, but they don't have anything else behind that.
No.
So
I'm interested because I think we could see another 9-3 season.
I can agree with that. I still think they beat South Carolina this year, which is always their biggest game.
Yeah.
No, I'm not high on Shane Beamer.
Huh?
I'm not high on Shane Beamer.
That's a different story for a different day. But I'm not sure when you went from less than 5 years ago, winning 2 championships in 3 years. There's no way your rivalry game at the end of the year is now your biggest game. You didn't fall off to a 6-6 team where your season depends on beating South Carolina. So I don't accept that.
Well, I mean, I lived in South Carolina. I know how ridiculous those people are about that game.
But you didn't fall off to 6-6 where your season depends on.
I get that. That's all I'm saying. But also they're lucky they swapped out Georgia for Georgia Tech and Furman.
Yeah,
and Louisiana Tech.
And that's the thing is, they started off, it was 10-3. They thought, because Georgia had a top defense. But they didn't realize Clemson was going to be inept all year on offense.
That's true. Yeah. So, but also, how much was that Georgia pounding DJ Eliangale into the dirt that game?
That's what that game consisted of.
Yes.
And like you said, did he get gun shy?
I would have gotten gun shy after getting killed like that. I mean, getting hit by Jordan Davis does not sound like a fun
that doesn't sound like a day at the office for you?
Huh?
That doesn't sound like a day at the office for you?
No, I would not. That does not sound like a good time.
What about N'Kobe Dean?
No.
What about Trayvon Walker?
No. None of that.
Okay. All right. James, and I know where you're going with this. You have a whole tangent. More likely to make it back to the ACC title game. Pittsburgh or Wake Forest?
Wake. Easy.
And your rant on Pitt starts now.
All righty. So, yes, was Pitt good last year? Absolutely. Did they get the Tennessee rub? I 100% agree. Did I ever tell you about the Tennessee rub?
No, but it's, you can either tell me now or tell me later.
Well, so the Tennessee rub, and it makes it easy. Every time you get Tennessee on the schedule, you become the best team ever.
Well, how much of that is just the way Tennessee makes you look?
This is true. However, I mean, this is how the world works. But Pitt loses not only their quarterback, who went to the first round in the NFL draft. They lost their number 1 wide receiver, and Jordan, and they also lost their offensive coordinator,
Mark Whipple.
They get back as their thing, Frank Cignetti Jr. Now, where was Frank Cignetti last year?
You told me off air, but I'm going to let you tell them.
He went to Boston College last year. He was the Boston College offensive coordinator. And what did we see out of Boston College all last year?
After Phil Jerkovich got hurt, a bunch of nothing.
A whole lot of nothing. And you didn't see a whole lot with Phil Jerkovich in as well.
I mean, shout out, they did lose to Missouri. So, no, they beat Missouri. That game was a lot closer than what it was supposed to be.
It shouldn't have been. You don't beat – Missouri was terrible last year, and you had to go to overtime with them. That just shows me that the offense wasn't the best thing in the world.
2 years ago. No, I apologize. That was 2 years ago. Continue.
No, that was last year too. They went to overtime.
That was 2 years ago.
No, they went to overtime last year. I have it here in the book.
Not against Missouri, though.
Yes, Missouri, overtime, win 41-34.
Am I missing this somewhere?
You are, because look at the Boston College.
I'm looking at Pittsburgh. Never mind. Continue. I'm looking at Pittsburgh. No wonder I can't find it. All right, continue your little rant. I apologize.
So, I mean, look at these offensive totals. Outside of beating Georgia Tech, they didn't win by a lot outside of an overtime game in UMass.
Right.
And Colgate.
Shout out to Colgate.
Yeah, once again, Phil Jerkovich was there before those injuries. Now,
I think Phil Jerkovich got hurt in the Missouri game.
Okay. That would make sense. Because then their offensive production went downhill outside of against Florida State, who was terrible.
And from what they were talking about at the time, Phil Jerkovich would have been the first QB off the board.
And he should be because he's actually really, really good.
I know he is. He's got an arm. I mean, it's cliche because Matt Ryan went there, but you can see some Matt Ryan in him.
Absolutely, you can. But we're talking about Pitt here. And Pitt, the good thing about Pitt is that, they've got a lot of returning starters on both sides of the ball. They really do. However, their most important players are not returning. Their wide receiver, their quarterback, and running back with that vanilla offense that Boston College ran last year. Will Caden Slovis be the difference maker that will help them win games? I don't think that's true. I think last year was catching lightning in a bottle, going 11-3, and having a really soft schedule.
And we talked about it when we kind of talked about our rivalries and how I watched the Pitt West Virginia game. Pitt's ran a very manila offense for years.
They always do.
They run, I don't know if I would consider it a pro style offense, but it's just
it's pro-ish.
Football, when everybody puts up points, it's not pretty to look at. But I'm with you. I feel like they lost too much. And then on the offensive side of the ball, and then you lost your offensive coordinator as well.
Yes.
I went with Wake as well. They have Sam Hartman coming back. They had a lightning in a bottle season 2. But I definitely went with Wake as well.
I went with Wake, and also because I love their arena football style. I once again think that Dave Clawson's a great coach, and if they just learn how to play a little bit of defense, they will be a great team this year. And and I'm gone. So now we're going to talk just me here, and we're just going to kind of side this just for a little bit because hopefully my co-host will be back here soon, and we will have everything there. Hold on. But we're going to just go off of his notes here. So I just think that Wake Forest will be a better team all around. And I don't think Pitt's going to be as good. And also I think their schedule will be much tougher this year with starting with the backyard brawl, then going into Tennessee. Those are 2 very difficult games that you have to play prior to anything else you start. So your first 2 games out of the year is rough and ready, and then you have to go play the speedballs of Tennessee. Then you get a break, a 2-week break, and then you actually a 3-week break, and then you play Virginia Tech, and hopefully by that time that'll be a much improved Virginia Tech team. You move into Louisville, and that's at Louisville, and then you go at North Carolina. You play Syracuse at home, but that's when the field starts turning into crap. Then you got at Virginia, Duke, and then you finish your season at Miami, and I think Miami is going to be a loss also.
I don't actually know what happened there.
I don't know either.
But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think Pitt lost way too much impact. And we saw in their bowl game against Michigan State last year that they struggled to have any offense, and Jordan Addison was still there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just not sure after what we see from Keenan Slovis at USC that, he's going to be the answer to all their prayers.
I think that a lot of that was, they should have lost that Tennessee game. Outside, if Hendon Hooker was the quarterback, I know if once and butter and nuts and all that, but they
are you mad at Joe Milton?
Oh yes, I am. He overthrew 2 touchdowns in that game. They were wide open.
Plus, Pitt lost to Western Michigan last year too. So
yeah.
Maxim. James, give me 2 non-conference games that you're watching that features ACC schools.
Well, my first one, and I'm going to go back to the book here, just make sure.
Actually, we're going to honorable mention, because if we don't do this every show, do we really love the backyard brawl?
Yes, we don't.
Shout out the backyard brawl, Pitt, West Virginia and Pitt. But I know because we both have love for this that neither one of us put it on there. Yes. But are we really backyard brawl homers if we don't mention it? James.
We are not. So my biggest, it's second week, and it's going to be a loaded week too, and that's Miami, Texas A&M.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that game?
It's going to show me a lot.
From Miami or from A&M?
Both.
Okay.
Who wants to be in the playoff?
Okay. I think this will be make or break for Miami. depending on how Tyler Van Dyke plays.
I think it's actually more make or break for Texas A&M because Texas A&M has a tougher schedule.
But that's the thing. Texas A&M can respond from a loss here because they still play Alabama, Arkansas, Ole Miss. They can respond. Miami doesn't have teams in their conference like that with a loss,
Unless you beat Clemson.
But we don't know what Clemson's going to be. That's the thing is everybody, it's Clemson, it's Dabo. They're going to figure it out. That's not guaranteed.
It's true.
That's not guaranteed that DJ is going to figure it out and that Cade's going to be the guy. So to me, we just have more of a track record of SEC teams being able to respond based on their schedule than the ACC teams.
I get you there, and I do agree with most of that sentiment there. I think that's a huge game for Miami. That's a huge feather in their cap, but it's also a huge game for Texas A&M to supplant themselves and say, "Hey, we have arrived."
I went with two very underrated games. My first one was Ole Miss at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
I think this is going to be an early season test for Georgia Tech. We know Lane Kiffin's going to run 105 plays. So I'm interested to see is Georgia Tech's offense going to be there, or is this going to be another inept team, and Jeff Collins is going to be gone by the middle of the season? So I definitely picked this just for the intrigue factor on it alone.
Hey, that's a good one. That's a very good one because it's also one of those bigger name ones. Did you have another one there? Well, I'm looking. I had to look.
I did. This was Saturday the 17th. And on Thursday the 22nd, I had West Virginia goes to Virginia Tech.
Okay.
I definitely, we'll see kind of JT Daniels in the backyard brawl. So we'll kind of get a better understanding of what West Virginia is. And I'm going to be interested to see what kind of defense Brett Pry brings over from Penn State. They've been, steady on defense here the last couple of years. So I think that's going to be an intriguing game, and it's a rivalry game as well.
It is.
And anything, the old adage, anything can happen in rivalry games.
Well, and also it's an old Big East game. It's got a lot of history.
There's a lot of underlying stories here.
Yeah, and we don't realize how close Virginia Tech is to the West Virginia border until you actually go to Blacksburg and see you're throwing rocks at West Virginia state line.
Exactly.
My other game, and it's actually with one of the teams that I'm not the highest on, but you're much higher on, and that's Texas Tech and NC State.
Okay. That wasn't the one you told me, but we'll go with it.
Yeah, it wasn't the one I told you because I just realized that I read
I am high on NC State. They played defense last year. They were one game away from winning the conference. They bring back basically their whole offense minus their left tackle. I just think if there's any year for NC State to win the ACC, this is going to be the year.
Yep, I agree.
And then Texas Tech with Joey McGuire. What is the one thing we know about Joey McGuire? If you watch Baylor, he recruits the hell out of Texas. So give him a few years. If he can recruit the hell out of Texas like he did at Baylor, he's going to have something at Texas Tech, although this is his first year as a head coach. I was very intrigued as to what that looks like.
I forgot what I put as my second one there.
You told me Tennessee Pitt.
Yes. I was trying to not be a homer.
Go ahead and take your tangent on your Tennessee Volunteers going to Pittsburgh.
Well, they have to win that game. They have to win that game. And I think that they will. If I'm feeling that Pitt's down, and I know Phil still is high on Pitt, but I'm just not. Tennessee should be able to score enough points and play just enough defense to win that game. And I know and luckily it's going to be earlier in the season when Heinz Field isn't completely torn to bits, because that's one of the few stadiums I go that needs to be in our official turf field. That one in particular has to be our official turf. The weather there sucks. And it's just not conducive to grass in like November and December, and it gets torn up.
Does the Pittsburgh Steelers start at home? Have they played on that field yet by the time that game starts? Do you know?
They'll play preseason games, yes.
Okay. So it's not going to be worn down, though.
No, it won't be worn down, but it's just the way Pittsburgh weather is, it's not conducive to grass. That just needs to be, because they not only does Pitt play there, Steelers play there, but they also have high school football there. And it just gets torn to bits. It's just a terrible field.
This is why I feel like all schools should have their own football stadium.
I understand why not at Pitt. You are fighting for space there. It is so compact. They don't have a place.
I mean, I guess you got four major sports teams, so I guess it makes sense.
4.
3.5, Philadelphia.
Well,
still same state.
Well, no, that's
3.
You tell that to Western PAers.
Okay, I said 3 because you got the Pirates, the Steelers, and the Penguins. So
yeah, Penguins, yeah. And they are that's a wonderful town. If anyone's ever visited, Pittsburgh's actually an awesome place to visit.
Give me one conference game you're watching this year.
Virginia Tech.
Okay.
I want to see if this is going to be the thing, and this is going to be and later in the year. We're going to see, is Tony Elliott worth his snuff or is Chris Pry worth his stuff? And I just feel like that's going to be the litmus test for both of them.
I unintentionally was turned to Virginia Tech. Did you watch Marshall at all in the last 2 years?
Unfortunately, no, because they've been in weird conferences.
Wells, who won Conference USA Freshman of the Year and had a good season his freshman year and kind of a down season last year, transferred and could win the starting job for Virginia Tech this year. So we know Brennan Armstrong can play quarterback. And we know nowadays everything starts with a quarterback. So I'll be intrigued to see who's the quarterback at Virginia Tech by then. Seems like the last 3 or 4 years they've played a 2 or 3 quarterback system.
Which I blame Justin Fuente for that.
Your boy Hendon Hooker came from there.
Yes, he did.
So shout out Justin Fuente for that.
Yes, thank you, Justin Fuente, for completely butchering your quarterback situation, and we being the benefactors for it. About time we got some good luck.
My game to watch is Wake at NC State. I feel like this could possibly, and I'm going to double check before I say this out loud. I think it could possibly be a preview for the ACC championship game.
Ooh.
Again, my question is, how much defense is Wake Forest going to play this year?
That's going to be really difficult for them to be in the ACC championship game, just FYI.
Are they on the same side?
They're on the same side.
Okay, then I take that back. But this could potentially be for the Atlantic Division, depending on how things fall.
Yes.
And I think Clemson's on the Atlantic as well.
Yes.
So this could definitely determine who goes to the ACC championship game from the Atlantic Division.
And I'll actually give this the ACC some credit because when you first looked at the divisions, you go, "Wow, is the Atlantic stacked and the Coastal not?" But I
was just thinking that. But if you think about, and I had it pulled up, the teams on the Coastal any year is wide open.
I mean, it is very leaned heavy towards Miami,
right?
But they haven't been able to capitalize with it. And, will North Carolina step up this year? Virginia Tech can win the division again this year. So, I mean, outside of Georgia Tech and Duke, that's it, but I think it's for Miami's to win on that side.
All right, let's get some predictions and let's get out of here. Who wins the Atlantic?
Clemson.
Okay. I have North Carolina State. I'm going to be on that train all year long, at least until games start. And like a good sports bettor does, I guess I'm about to eat crow and still toot the horn.
Exactly.
It really depends on what it looks like, for North Carolina State. But I definitely think if there's any year for them to win it, this is going to be the year. Just because we don't know what Clemson's going to be.
The one thing that scares me about Clemson, and it's not the offensive side, actually, it's the losing Brent Venables.
That's the other thing I thought about Clemson is they lost both coordinators.
They did, and it is, and Brent Venables, I think, is an excellent coach. I think he was one of the bedrocks there. And I mean, they are coming with Mick Kahn and Wes Goodwin there.
But do we know those names?
No, we don't.
That's.
But he did them all in house. I remember them talking about it. They were wanting to do it all in house.
Well, that's how Dabo got the job. So we can't doubt that promoting from inside Clemson works. They've shown us it does.
Yeah, but they never had to replace Brent Venables.
No, and that was going to be my point. Is he has been a stable on that defense. So,
but the good thing about that is he has his returning defensive line back, which we know Clemson recruits defensive line very well. So I feel like it helps cure a lot of ills while you're growing pains being the new defensive coordinator there.
And we started, you can start off strong. Georgia Tech's not an offensive juggernaut.
No.
They can kind of ease into it until you hit Wake Forest on the 24th with Georgia Tech, Furman, and Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
Now we know not to sleep on these G5 teams.
You can sleep on Furman a little bit.
They beat South Carolina, so can you really sleep on Furman?
Well, I mean, and I was the one who used to love Furman because their coach was a guy that coached at Maryville High School, but he's no longer there. So, but I still think that's a little bit of a stretch. But I feel like that's where he gets his claim. But I mean, will we really know what he looks like until he hits Wake Forest? But then it's Wake Forest, NC State.
Well, it depends on your view of
how
it depends on your view of Georgia Tech. I really feel like it depends on how you view Georgia Tech. And if I remember correctly, this current head coach played quarterback at Furman. Can you name that head coach?
No.
Okay. I'm going to fact check it because I heard this the other day. I believe, if I remember correctly, Florida head coach Billy Napier played QB at Furman.
That would not be a shocker.
Let's see.
Yes, he did play there.
Okay, so I did hear that correctly. So yes,
you did say that correctly. The guy I was referring to, George Quarles. He was a former player at my alma mater high school, and then went to Furman and played football there for 4 years, and was the offensive coordinator last year. I think he has moved on to East Tennessee State University, but he was.
Shout out, they beat Vanderbilt last year.
They did beat Vanderbilt. Randy Shannon, baby.
All right, who do you have winning the Coastal? Because I think we both have the same team.
It's Miami.
That's who I have as well. I just feel like Mario Cristobal is the best coach on that side of the ACC.
I think he's the best side there. I think he's the one that has the healthiest program. He has the most talent. I'm just not. I'm not big on the rest of the teams there. I just don't. I feel like there's too many what ifs there.
We're going to differ on this. Who's winning the ACC?
Miami.
I've got North Carolina State. I told you I'm on this train till it runs off the tracks, man.
You played it safe when it came to everything, with the coaching changes and everything, and then you magically just go right to the freaking jugular there with the NC State being the better team than Clemson, Wake Forest, and all the rest of them there.
Do you remember what I said when we started talking about coaches that couldn't be fired?
Yeah.
Do you remember what I said? Scared money don't make money.
Scared money don't make money, which is why I went. That's why I went big. But then I just think Miami's a good team this year. I really think Miami's good. I'm really high on Miami.
I'm right there with you, which is why I have them winning the Coastal. I didn't make that up.
I see them being in the playoff this year.
Right here in the notes. I didn't just make it up. Wherever right there. Miami.
Oh, I get it.
It's hard in year one because look at what Sark went through. We talked about this. I'm going to talk about it on air or off about the offensive line coach that ripped into the players of Texas.
Best coaching thing I've ever heard.
I agree, and that's a different story for a different day. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is you don't know the mindset of the players down there. You don't know what kind of coach Manny Diaz was. That's all I'm saying is the same thing Sark went through last year. Cristobal can go through this year with not knowing what kind of players he has. That's all I'm saying.
I see that, but I feel like the talent. Okay, there was a talent situation there in Texas. It wasn't just an effort situation. Whereas we saw Miami fight last year. They weren't terrible. Manny Diaz didn't. They went 7-5 I think last year.
Yes,
and that was also including getting absolutely decimated by Alabama. I mean, if you don't remember that game had like
start the year last year, didn't they?
Huh? Yes, they started. They started.
They did play to start last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they got decimated by it. I mean, they lost their starting quarterback. Like a bunch of players were injured. It was a terrible start of the season, and they still were able to get back up there. So that's why I'm very bullish on Miami, especially now that they got their guy as coach. And I mean, he's a known commodity, and I know these players are known commodities. I feel different about that than I should be, because everything else is weird. Everything's pointing at me shouldn't be picking that team. But I just see that and I just go, that's a team that should be playing.
Well, I will at least give you this. If they go down the coastal, we at least go down together, because I'm right there with you. Jay, next time we talk, we are going to talk on the Big Ten. Give me one hot take from the Big Ten if you got it.
Well, you already heard my first hot take. So you got mad at me on the first episode here.
That's because that was my hot take. But go ahead. You can put it out there, and I'll BS another one.
Jim Harbaugh is going to be the next Dan Mullen. He is this year's Dan Mullen.
I would say they go 6-6, but the cupcake they have in September, I can't.
I don't think he makes it. I think they can him.
I'm going to say this, and I want you to be ready. Purdue wins the Big Ten West.
Not okay.
I know that's not brand new information.
That's not the hottest take I've heard, because I've heard a lot of rumblings out of Minnesota.
But and we love PJ Fleck from our action. So PJ Fleck is our guy, and I love PJ Fleck.
Yes.
But if you go look, he is the best quarterback in the Big Ten West. Probably the second or third best quarterback in the whole conference. You know what? That'll be my hot take. Aiden O'Connell is the second best quarterback in the Big Ten.
Oof.
Catch us next week as we talk about the Big Ten and preview. Is Jim Harbaugh going to make it through the year? Is Aiden O'Connell really the second best quarterback in the Big Ten? Make sure you catch us next week, and we'll talk.